So do you guys remember when Elijah Wood and the entire cast of the original Lord of the Rings trilogy, when they came together on Twitter and decided to band together and go on the side of Rings of Power and basically call everybody racist and all these other names that you could possibly think of by siding with that group? Well, apparently Elijah Wood is now doing a 180 reversal because now all of a sudden he's trying to be supportive of the upcoming trilogy movies that are coming out from Warner Brothers. And not only that, now he's saying that they should respect Tolkien's material and source work when that wasn't the case when people were discussing the Rings of Power just a few months ago. It's interesting that Elijah Wood decided to take this about face. Why that is, who really knows? But let's find out. So this article from Bounding Into Comics says Elijah Wood does an about face on new Lord of the Rings adaptations and shares hope that the new adaptations are done with reverence for Tolkien's material. It says Elijah Wood did a complete about face when discussing the prospect of new Lord of the Rings movies from Warner Brothers Discovery. Wood previously joined what appeared to be an organized campaign to accuse Tolkien fans of racism and harassment for simply demanding respect for Tolkien's legendarium in Prime Video's The Rings of Power series. Now, when you saw that post, I don't know if they're going to show the picture in this article, but if you guys remember when the post went up on all of their social media platforms, including Elijah Wood, it was hilarious to me how it was literally as if it was all planned, right? Which I do think it was. I don't think this was like necessarily a response to supposed racism. I am almost guaranteeing that this was all planned. They had came out with T-shirts that were designed seemingly within a day or two. It seemed like because the Rings of Power made a post on Twitter about standing against racism and all this stuff, and then the next day or the 2 days after that, it seemed like Elijah Wood and his crew of little hobbits all decide to wear the same outfit, talking about Middle Earth has multiple colors or something along those lines. It was so cringy, and it all seemed very, very planned. So don't be shocked if that was the case. It says the official Lord of the Rings on Prime Twitter account accused Tolkien fans and supporters of racism. They posted a statement that read, "We, the cast of Rings of Power, stand together in absolute solidarity and against the relentless racism, threats, harassment, and abuse some of our castmates of color are being subjected to on a daily basis. We refuse to ignore it or tolerate it." It seems like you also refuse to be sincere about it because we can all see from a mile away that that shit was completely made up. You guys were trying to pretend that the racism was so relentless and it was so in abundance that that was the majority of the people who disliked your show. Mind you, the amount of dislikes that you guys received, the amount of bad reviews that you guys received, there's no way in hell you can convince anybody numerically that the majority of those people are just simply racist and they were getting their venting off. You cannot convince anybody of that. You're trying to convince me that 95+% of the millions upon millions of people that hated your TV show and everything that it stood for was all just because they were racist? Like, if you believe that, I mean, I honestly have a bridge I can sell you. It says next, they added J.R.R. Tolkien created a world which by definition is multicultural, a world in which free peoples from different races and cultures join together in fellowship to defeat the forces of evil. Rings of Power reflects that. Our world has never been an all-white, Middle Earth is not all white, BIPOC people belong in Middle Earth and they are here to stay. That statement right there just goes to show the complete ignorance that you have for the actual source material that you are adapting. We've said this multiple times until we're literally blue in the face, so there's no reason to repeat it in depth, but to simplify it, obviously, there is multi-skinned colored races within Middle Earth. The problem is you, Amazon, chose not to adapt the actual dark-skinned races that are within the source material. You chose to completely ignore it, and instead, you chose to blackify the white races or notoriously fair-skinned races within the Lord of the Rings context. And that is your fault. That is nobody else's fault but yourself. You decided to completely ignore the people of Harad, for example, that were obviously dark skinned, and you could have enabled yourself to have all the diversity and equity that you wanted within that particular race, but you chose to ignore it because there's no clout within that race. Nobody knows it on a grand scale like all the normies know the hobbits. So that's why, or the elves for that matter. So that's why you decided to race swap the hobbits. That's why you decided to race swap the elves, because you knew that that was going to get you the attention. Nobody was going to make a character based on the people of Harad, because why would you do that? Nobody aside from people who read the books really know who those people are. And even if you saw the movies, you probably don't even realize that they were actually in the movies towards the end of the third movie, or in the middle of the third movie, I should say. So again, it's one of those things that they know exactly what they were doing, and all of this was pre-planned. As I know a lot of you guys are aware, they know damn well that none of this shit was happening. They know that nobody was being racist to them on a grand scale. Did you have some racist people? Probably. And most of them were probably just trolling you because you knew that they knew, I should say, that it was going to affect you. But ultimately, most of the people were not being racist. Almost everybody had true gripes with the show. And when you looked at the bad reviews, most of them were longer than some of the positive reviews. People were tearing apart the show bit by bit and talking about their issues with it. And meanwhile, you had a problem with letting those reviews go through. But God forbid a 5-star review doesn't go through, because all of those guaranteed went through, and they were just 2 or 3 word 5-star reviews. So again, who's really lying here? It says, finally, all of our love and fellowship go out to the fans supporting us, especially fans of color, who are themselves being attacked simply for existing in this fandom. They added, we see you, your bravery and endless creativity, your cosplays, fan cams, fan art, and insights make this community a richer place and remind us of our purpose. You are valid, you are loved, and you belong. They concluded, you are an integral part of the Lord of the Rings family. Thanks for having our backs. Again, guys, why are they trying to pretend as if black people were never within the Lord of the Rings universe in terms of the fandom? Obviously, a ton of black people love Lord of the Rings. It is racist as shit for these people to assume that now, all of a sudden, black people are now allowed in this fandom. Apparently, they were never in this fandom before. Apparently, Lord of the Rings never shared fandom with black people before. It is the most asinine thing I've ever heard, honestly. And again, I'm not surprised that a lot of these super woke white liberals who work for Amazon think this way. They think that now Lord of the Rings is apparently diverse because they're the ones who touched it. Clearly, nobody was black before in the fandom for Lord of the Rings. It's the most stupid thing. So, by the way, everybody who's black who loved Lord of the Rings before Amazon touched it, you got a lot of explaining to do, because apparently you didn't exist until this point. It's a ridiculous notion, and I cannot believe people let them get away with saying shit like that. It says this statement came in response to a host of criticisms that the show was ignoring Tolkien's Legendarium, with specific criticisms noting the numerous changes to the race of certain characters, specifically hobbits, elves, and dwarves. One of the biggest critics was YouTuber Just Some Guy, who opined in one of his videos criticizing the Rings of Power, saying, the point of Tolkien's stories to be English in design and effect, and Middle-earth reflects that in its cultures, languages, and appearances of its race. To change this, to remove the Englishness, or really the whiteness, from Tolkien's stories is to undermine the very purpose of his works. It should be obvious that this will result in the backlash, but for some reason, after watching fans reject every attempt at playing politics with major franchises like Star Trek, Star Wars, Doctor Who, and the MCU, Amazon decided to interject progressive politics into the show, along with playing loose and fast with the lore, and we're shocked when fans gave them the one-finger salute he added. I don't know why they were shocked, because they should have seen that coming from a mile away, and honestly, I think they did see it coming from a mile away, which is the exact reason why they decided to prop up this racism story before anything actually happened. They had these headlines ready to go, they had the presses ready to release it, and they knew exactly what they were doing. So don't let them fool you into thinking they were too stupid to realize that they were going to get backlash for everything they were doing, because they knew damn well they were going to. It says, then Elijah Wood joined in these accusations levied by Prime Video, whether by ignorance or full knowledge, by sharing t-shirts with the Lord of the Rings on Prime slogan, "You are all welcome here." He posted to Twitter, "You are all welcome here." He went on the tag to official Lord of the Rings on Prime Twitter account before sharing a photo of him wearing a shirt with the slogan written in Elvish with a number of different ears in different colors. He posed alongside Dominic Monaghan and Billy Boyd, who played Merry and Pippin in the Peter Jackson directed adaptation of Tolkien's novels. Okay, so they do show the picture. So you guys see what I mean? Like this t-shirt literally looks like it was made ever so quickly. Like there's no way that this was not planned. They had this t-shirt, they had this photo op, everything was planned and ready to go. And now all of a sudden you're trying to say, oh, you hope that they respect the source material for Tolkien's work. Interesting choice of words considering where you stood when you were being paid to virtue signal by Amazon. Very interesting. This was done on September 7th of 2022. So it wasn't that long ago that you were just shilling for Rings of Power. Now all of a sudden you want true adaptations. Okay, interesting. Wood has completely changed his tune in a recent interview with GQ, now hoping that recently announced Lord of the Rings films from Warner Brothers Discovery will respect Tolkien's writings. First, Wood told the outlet, "I'm fascinated and I'm excited. I hope it's good. I'm surprised. I don't know why I'm surprised because, of course, there would be more movies." He continued, "Obviously, at the core of that is a desire to make a lot of money. It's not that a bunch of executives are like, let's make really awesome art. And again, not begrudging anybody because, of course, it is commerce, but great art can come from commerce. So those two things are not mutually exclusive." But Lord of the Rings didn't come out of that place, he declared. It came out of a passion for these books and wanting to see them realized. And I hope that is ultimately what will drive everything forward with whatever these subsequent movies are. It's such an interesting fucking notion to take now. Very interesting, considering that you didn't care about any of that. You didn't care about the absolute massacre that was the Rings of Power. If you cannot admit and sit down and truly admit to yourself or others that the Rings of Power wasn't a complete massacre of Tolkien's work, then you really shouldn't be talking about the movies anymore for the rest of your life. Honestly, just let it go. You had your time as Frodo. We loved it. I still loved you as Frodo. But who you are right now and what you're doing with the source material with Rings of Power, you could basically go fuck yourself for even getting close to defending that nonsense. So anyway, guys, thank you so much for watching this video. I hope you did enjoy it. And if you did, consider leaving me a subscribe. I would greatly appreciate it. Don't forget to like the video, comment, let me know what you thought. And I'll see you guys on the next one. Hypnotic out.